All right, I thought this could be an interesting idea for a video. It's going to be a less structured video, a more general thoughts kind of video, which I always enjoy making. Again, very much just going to be kind of me talking to the camera about my thoughts on who should be the starter for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I made film studies on all of their performances because they did very well, thanks to all the Steelers fans who were watching those. And I was just interested in the discussion. So in this video, I want to explain the arguments for why you would have Russell Wilson be the starter, the arguments for why you would have Justin Fields be the starter, and then ultimately what I think is going to happen and what I personally would do. I can actually just start off with what I think is going to happen. I think Wilson's going to be the starter. I mean, they didn't have Wilson play in week 1, and then week 3, Wilson played for like a series. So because of that, it definitely makes me think that, usually when that's how a player plays, they're usually the, quarterback 1. I'm assuming that's going to happen here. But what is the correct decision? And of course, the quarterback who starts week 1 is not necessarily the quarterback who is going to remain quarterback throughout the course of the season. So yeah, I put up a poll on my community notes tab, and 56% said Russell Wilson should be the starter. 44% said Justin Fields. So it was really close. I mean, definitely there was an edge towards Wilson, but it was not people aren't overwhelmingly on the side of the Steelers that Wilson should be the guy to be a starter, which I do find fascinating. So first, let's go to that argument, the argument of Russell Wilson being the starter, because that's what the community notes tab leans towards. That's what the Steelers lean towards. And I think with Wilson, you just get a higher floor game in and game out. Like, even if you're a Justin Fields massive defender, you can't deny he has several plays a game that are just disastrous. He'll throw it right to the other team, or he'll, while getting tackled, still trying to make a throw and, give it to someone else. That is something that he tends to do. He will take too many sacks, things like that. Russell Wilson is not a perfect player in his own right, but is usually pretty good at just kind of running an offense pretty well. I don't think he quite gives you the added stuff that he used to, the kind of scrambling downfield stuff, but he's someone that, like I said, will still put the ball in harm's way on occasion, but it's definitely there's a big benefit to that than Wilson. I think the first argument you would make for why Fields should be the starter is that kind of the opposite, essentially. He's not going to quite give you as much as Wilson is in terms of game management, but he's going to make up for it with the other stuff. Justin Fields is, I still think, if once you get him outside the pocket and once he actually has room to run, because sometimes he tries to run and runs directly into a defensive lineman, but when you get him out of that situation, he's probably the best scrambling quarterback in the league. I think even better than Lamar, although you could make an argument for Lamar. He's on that tier at the very least once he's outside the pocket. I think Lamar does a good job at picking his spots better. For Fields, I also think he's one of the most difficult guys to bring down. I mean, how many times over the years have we seen Fields is sacked, and all of a sudden he isn't, and all of a sudden, despite the fact there were 3 guys on him, he got out of it and is still able to move constantly. For the Steelers, part of this is just going to be opinion and how good do you think the Steelers roster is. I think the Steelers team could have some potential issues. I like George Pickens a lot. I don't love the receiver depth for this team. I also think that just their offensive line, full of potential, but it's a lot of young guys, and they might just take some time to develop. And so for someone like Fields, maybe it makes sense to go for someone like him because there might be some bad situations. Yes, Russell Wilson is the kind of guy where I think he can just run an offense better, and you get someone who can just run the offense better. I get the logic behind it, but if the offense itself isn't getting ran that well, maybe it's better going with the guy who is more of a playmaker because he's someone who can, that might be more of what you need for the Steelers. They might have more of those types of plays than plays where guys are just getting schemed open consistently. The other argument for Fields, and I think the other benefit for Fields is that he is someone who you don't just have to rely on his scrambling ability. You can use designed runs for him. And I guess one of the benefits is if you don't think it's a massive drop-off going from Fields to Wilson or Wilson to Fields, if it's a discussion as to who should even start, it's not like Chicago where they kind of felt like they had to protect their asset and couldn't use, Fields in the running game. Here you can fully, use Fields the way Colin Kaepernick was used, right? Of let's just make the running ability be a massive part of his game, because really it should be if he's going to be the starter. So I think that's the biggest argument for why Fields should be a starter, and it's a pretty strong argument, I would say. I think that the counter to that argument, though, is that in theory, if the Steelers don't have a great situation around a quarterback and Justin Fields, is the better playmaker, well then, okay, let's, have the better playmaker start. The issue is that Fields also is kind of known for making some bad mistakes when there is, pressure on him and when things aren't going well. Russell Wilson might be better at minimizing damage. Yes, it's true that Fields is going to give you more positive plays when a play breaks down, but he's also going to give you more plays in the other direction because of him when a play breaks down. Wilson just has a higher floor, but also the lower ceiling. And given the way the Steelers like to just run their team, I think they like kind of consistency at the quarterback position. I think they want to just do okay offensively, don't lose the game on offense, and win the game on defense is how I think they want to play, which is why I think Wilson is, that's what they're going for. And I understand the argument. Part of me just feels like if it's this close, I almost would just go with the younger guy, to be honest. There is still room for Fields to grow. I kind of like the idea of putting Fields in as a starter, but do the thing where he's a starter, but he's a rushing quarterback, and you're going to constantly have him being mobile and things like that. Use his legs, use designed runs. Like I said, the Colin Kaepernick thing, the Robert Griffin III thing, that makes more sense, probably the most sense to me in terms of how do you maximize plays. And I think the Steelers, they might need some plays. Yes, I know they always happen to make the playoffs, so probably whatever they'll do, they'll be okay. But I guess, I don't know, my logic behind it is, well, I don't think either option are bad. I think what I think is, okay, if Russell Wilson's a starter and he's solid and a capable quarterback and they win another 10 games and then get knocked out in round 1 again, what have we really done here? At least with Fields, there is the higher upside, I think. So I think I'd be willing to be a little bit more, take a little bit more risk here. But again, it's not my job on the line. So if it was my job on the line, I'd probably just go with Wilson. So that's how I view all of this. But what do you think about all of this? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from y'all. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.